Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing good. I welcome you all to today's session where we will be discussing the most important news stories from the Hindu newspaper. My name is Harshmeet Singh and our endeavor here in these sessions it's quite simple to simplify newspaper reading for you and to make sure that no news worth importance is actually skipped by you. We'll be discussing each and every important news stories from the mains and the prelims examination point of view. Also, we'll be discussing practice questions, which I hope you are taking seriously as your homework. In return for all of these efforts that we are putting in, the only thing that I ask of you is number one, take the homework very seriously, and number two, do hit the subscribe button if you have not done so far on this channel. Do catch up every single day here at 4 p.m. Let's begin. Before we discuss the important articles that we'll be taking today, an important reminder once again, in case you are now starting your journey of UPSC preparation and you are aiming to tackle the toughest examination in the country, we are here to help you out. There are 1 year and 2 year in proper comprehensive courses that we offer you, which includes entire preparation from the prelims to the mains examination, including till the interview stage. It will cover each and every aspect of prelims, mains, all the topics, each and every subject, including current affairs. We put special emphasis on practicing questions, so you will have regular tests for both prelims and mains answer writing as well. In case you need any other information regarding all the courses that we offer, feel free to check out our website. Also check out the description of the video. In that description you will find out a lot of information that will be helpful for you. Do make sure that you do that. With that out of the way, let's begin the topics that we have for you. These are the topics that we have chosen for you. The first topic is about the outer space race. This is in context of a lot of countries such as SpaceX and others sending satellites into space at a very fast pace. Now, for example, there's a company called Starlink that is owned by Elon Musk, who is the world leader right now in offering satellite based internet. The result is that a lot of satellites are being sent into space. It has created kind of a traffic jam into space. This article explores that. What is the implication of sending so many satellites in space? Would it create a rivalry amongst the nation, and where does India stand? The second topic is about the news that has filled up the entire newspaper today. That is Donald Trump's announcement of what we call as reciprocal tariffs. Donald Trump had announced as soon as he became the American president for the second term that every country with which America has a trade deficit, they will be imposing reciprocal tariffs on them. For example, if a country imposes 30% tariff on American products, they will also do the same against them. Yesterday was a day when a lot of announcements were made specifically with respect to India. Now, those who are the regular watchers of this series, you know that already we had discussed about reciprocal tariffs. We have had a in detailed discussion of what these tariffs are, how will it impact US and its trade with other countries. So in this article today, rather than discussing once again what are reciprocal tariffs, our focus will mainly be on how would it impact India in different sectors of India. The third article will be about how the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan has become a controversy between some of the states and the center government. Some of the states alleging that they have not been getting enough funds from the central government. We'll be discussing what this issue is. Then a very important article about undersea cables, the cables that connect the entire world, that allow all of us to have internet connectivity. And in the end, we have an article from Hungary where Hungary has decided that they will officially start the proceedings to opt out of International Criminal Court called the ICC. We'll be discussing what ICC is, how is it different from other courts such as the International Court of Justice, and what will be the implication of such a decision. So a lot of important topics lined up. Let's begin with the first one. The first article that we have taken up is from the mains examination point of view. That is what has Donald Trump decided. Now, Donald Trump, that is the American president now in his second term, when he was fighting the election, one of the agendas that he was extremely passionate about was that once he comes to power, he will put tariffs on all those countries that put high tariffs on American goods. And now he has lived up to that promise. So yesterday was a day that he very proudly announced the tariffs that he would be putting on different countries. Now, one thing to understand here is, does the American president have the power to randomly decide how many tariffs to put on which country? It's an interesting answer. If you look at the American law, it is actually the American Congress. Congress means the American Parliament. It is actually them who have the power to decide how many tariffs to put. But actually, in emergency situations, when there are emergency situations, in those cases, it is the president of the US that can take this power in their hand. And this is what he has done. These are the kind of questions that you can ask, that you can see in the UPSC previous year papers. For example, what are the key areas of reforms if WTO has to survive in present context of the trade war, especially keeping in mind the interests of India? There is an angle of WTO also involved here about how exactly does WTO treat these countries that are putting so many tariffs, which is against the idea of WTO. WTO essentially wants the countries to come together, reduce the trade barriers. And by putting on tariffs, you're actually increasing the trade barriers, so going against the mandate of the WTO. So 2nd April, the American president announced reciprocal tariff on various countries under what is called as International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Now, this is an act that America has, under which the American president has all these powers that they can impose these tariffs. And it is under this that the American president Donald Trump has used this power specifically. So do make a note of this. That is the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. Again, please understand, under normal circumstances in America, the American Congress, that is the parliament, has the power to decide tariff. It's only in emergency situations that the president will get this power. And this is a very interesting interpretation of the situation. There is no emergency situation as such. But the interpretation done by Donald Trump is that we are going through an emergency and I would have the power to impose these tariffs now. Now, what are the key features? What has been decided? First, a baseline tariff of 10% on all US imports. So it doesn't matter where the import is coming from, at least 10% tariff has to be imposed. Then he has gone into detail of country specific tariffs. So depending on the country, there are different tariffs that have been decided. So India has been given the tariff of 26, 27%. Then for China, it is 34%, 46% for Vietnam. So basically, the reason I'm saying 26, 27 for India is that there are contrasting statements coming in. Sometimes the US is saying it's 26, then they are saying no, it's 27. So we are still to see what the final verdict would be. Also, in this case, remember the tariffs are mainly for those countries that have a trade surplus against US. Means against whom US has a trade deficit. So US buys more stuff from them as compared to selling them. So US thinks, or Donald Trump thinks, that putting on tariff would lead to easing up of this disbalance. That is the entire idea behind it. Also, the stock market around the world, especially in the US, has not taken it very well. The American stock market, Indian stock market, most of stock markets around the world are falling because of this. Because see, no developed country or no globalized country would actually want these kind of tariffs to put. All of them would want free trade to be encouraged. So putting in these kind of tariffs actually goes against the entire idea of what globalization and WTO stands for. Now let's look at the sector wise issue of which sectors in India have been impacted. First, let's look at the seafood sector or the fishery sector as you call in India. Now, many of us would not really realize this, but the fact is India is the largest seafood exporter to the US. A significant amount of fish, shrimp, other sea products are exported to the US. So this is one sector that would have a lot of impact if tariffs are put. Because when you put tariff on these products, that means you are artificially increasing the price. So your product will become less competitive. So 35% share of this product goes to the US. There is a tariff that is imposed on India, because of which we might have an export loss in this particular area. That is one sector where we are not happy that tariffs have been imposed. Then engineering goods, again, India sells a lot of engineering goods to the US, so machinery, machine parts, components, etc. That is also expected to fall by $4 to $5 billion. So again, it's not a pretty picture for India, because the idea is when you put on tariffs, you are basically artificially increasing the price of the commodity coming in from that country. So why would an American now buy an Indian product when they know Indian products are going to be expensive for them? Then there is gem and jewelry sector. India again exports a lot of gems and jewelry, and the idea is it may go down to half. Please understand, all of these are just projections. No one knows in reality how much impact will it have. These are just projections that are done by these bodies. Projection is that gem and jewelry export may halve. We have seen in 2007 there was a 50% drop when GSP benefits were removed. Now, what is GSP? GSP is an American system called Generalized System of Preferences. Under this, America had said that we will put lesser tariffs on some of the developing countries and their products. Many of Indian products going into the US were given GSP privilege, so lesser tax was imposed on them. In 2007, when these privileges were taken away, half of the gems and jewelry export from India to the US had actually declined. So we have precedent where it is seen that Indian products may decline if there is such a bump in the tariff that is imposed on them. Similarly, pharmaceutical, this is one sector that has been exempted where India is happy. India sells a lot of medicines, pharmaceuticals, not state of the art, but run of the mill pharmaceuticals to Europe, America. That sector has, for at least for now, been exempted. So India can expect that this sector will continue to do well. In terms of electronic semiconductor manufacturing has again been not directly impacted. To be true, India does not export a lot of semiconductor or high value electronic manufacturing products anyways to the US. It's mostly a field that has been monopolized by China, by South Korea, by Taiwan. So India doesn't have a lot of export, but yes, for the indirectly, because tariffs on this are being imposed on China and Vietnam, it might help us. So there are two ways in which the tariff would impact us. First way is how many tariffs are being put on Indian products, and second, how many tariffs are being put on products that are competition from India. So if we are competing against the Chinese products and high tariffs are being imposed on China, that means our product will have an advantage there. So in electronics, good for us. China will be facing these tariffs. On textile, India sees an opportunity because we might see competition again from other countries declining. China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, they will have to face many tariffs. In aerospace aviation, again, there may be worsening supply chain issues from Boeing. So as you know, Boeing now has some of their setup in India as well. That might create an issue in the long run. The problem is with these kind of policies, what will be the exact impact? It is usually to be seen in the long run. You can't imagine that yesterday announcement was made and today you will know what the impact is. The immediate impact can only be seen in the stock market. You can say that tomorrow stock market is increasing or decreasing, but in the long run, how the trade is improving or deteriorating will only be seen once some time passes, a few months pass. So right now we are not sure about how or what exact impact will it have. India has not given any drastic reaction. For example, countries such as China have given a drastic reaction. From Europe also, China has straight away said that you should take back the tariffs or we'll also do the same. India has basically given a very measured response. That is that we are negotiating, we look into it, because India knows the importance of US for our trade specifically, and we cannot afford to have them on the wrong side. So we are taking it very lightly. We are actually seeing if there is some other negotiation that we can do behind the scene. The leaders at the top have a good personal rapport with each other. So we'll have to see whether or not India would be able to convince them to reduce the tariff on some of the important areas that matter to us. Commerce Ministry from India's side is the person or is the point of contact for these kind of negotiations. We have seen multiple visits from ministers such as Sri Piyush Goyal to America, where they have been discussing about these tariff issues. So what exactly is the result of it? It remains to be seen in the coming few months. On the other hand, as I said, not every country has given a major response. China, countries from EU have given a much more drastic response. EU has said that there will be dumping of goods into their market now, because if the Chinese products can't be sold to America, they will have to send it somewhere else, right? If you're producing so much and your biggest market all of a sudden says, I don't want to buy it, where will you send your products? So anything that America does will have a direct or indirect impact in other parts of the world. So there will be some issues regarding this dumping of Chinese products into other countries. There have been leaders around the world that have called Donald Trump as a bully, that he has been bullying other countries. But you know what? When you're the leader of the largest country in the world, when you by far have the largest economy, you can afford to be a bully. Right or wrong, you like it, you don't like it, it's a different matter altogether. But you can afford to be a bully. And that's what America is saying. The other aspect of it is WTO. See, with these kind of things happening, you are actually reducing the importance, the significance of WTO. As we discussed earlier, the entire idea of WTO was that you have to allow free trade, you have to reduce trade barriers. So when the countries come up and start putting in trade barriers, tariffs, quotas, etc., you are going against the spirit, against the idea of what WTO actually stands for. So what WTO will do in the coming years, how will it remain relevant? It will remain to be seen. Anyways, for the past few years, the WTO's dispute resolution platform is not working. The WTO dispute resolution mechanism has been invalid because the judges have not been appointed there because US has been blocking it. Countries like, or rather organizations like WTO work on the basis of consensus. So for any decision to be taken in WTO, all the member countries first have to say yes. Even if one of them says no, the decision cannot be taken. This is something that is misused by America, and they try to make sure that these decisions are not taken unless they are in agreement to it. So WTO is trying to argue with the other countries not to follow suit, but it remains to be seen. WTO, for example, also has something called special and differential treatment (SDT), meaning that developing countries, poorer countries should be dealt differently, should be treated differently. Their products should be given lesser taxes. That is what WTO wants, but Donald Trump again is not hearing that. For Donald Trump, every country is the same. In fact, Donald Trump has accused India and China that these are developed countries actually just disguising themselves as developing countries just to take advantage of our economy. There will be another debate about economic nationalism versus globalization. Globalization, as I said again and again, means putting down the barriers, making sure that the countries come together, world becomes one single marketplace. Whereas economic nationalization means giving preference to your country, giving preference to your products as compared to other countries. That is economic nationalism. This debate is just starting. It remains to be seen how it actually progresses and how the countries are able to tackle this situation now that the biggest economy in the world is actually taking these interesting decisions. The second article that we have here is about the outer space race. As I said earlier, the outer space race has a lot of interesting connotation to it. But the reason why this article is written is that it is focusing a lot on a company called Starlink. I'm sure all of you are aware of a company called Starlink, owned by Elon Musk, the richest person in the world. This company mainly provides you internet through satellite. So you would not need wired connection. You would need consider this like a DTH, the dish antenna that you have at your home. So you have a DTH antenna at your home, and then that catches signals through satellites. Similar will be the case here in case of Starlink. It's not operational as of now in India, but it is operational in many other countries. For example, when the Ukraine-Russia war started, and Russia specifically destroyed a lot of important infrastructure of Ukraine, a lot of antennas and telecommunication infrastructure was destroyed. It was Starlink that launched its satellite internet in Ukraine and allowed the people in Ukraine to still be online with the help of this technology. So it's an alternative to the current system of technology and internet that we use. Now, in this kind of a system, you see a situation where it requires thousands of satellites to be sent into space to have a global coverage of internet. It's not a matter of a few satellites. Like right now, Starlink has already sent thousands of satellites into space, and they're planning to send even more. And it's not just an idea that Starlink is working towards. Many other countries, many other companies in France, China, even Indian companies like Airtel are working towards it. These are the kind of questions that you can see from space related issues in the past asked by UPSC. This was a question Goldilocks zone in 2015. If you do know the answer, try and tell us in the comment section. If you don't, find out the answer and tell us in the comment section anyways. Now, as I said, this article mainly discusses what are the implications of sending so many satellites, what are the implications of giving internet through satellite, what is the infrastructure that you will have to build, and sending so many satellites to space. Is that the good thing? Is it a bad thing? Would it create a traffic jam in the space? All these are the different aspects that are covered in this particular article. This is also in the news because, as you know, Starlink has been signing contracts with a lot of Indian companies. Jio, Airtel, all these companies have signed contracts with Starlink to team up with them and provide these kind of services to Indian consumers as well. Now, these are basically, as I said, satellite networks such as Starlink, and there are other companies as well. We are repeating the name of Starlink because this is the biggest one. China also has a company called Guowang, and there's a French company, OneWeb. All these companies are working together. The idea is to put in satellites on the low Earth orbit, LEO, and then through them they will be able to transmit internet signals rather than depending upon infrastructure being on the ground. Now, this is a very interesting idea. You might say it's a step forward for humanity. It is a very interesting way to look at, because, for example, the good part about this is that people who are living in the rural areas, for example, right now, those do not have a great internet connectivity right now. If you look at India, if you go to rural areas, you would not have great internet connectivity. There's lack of signals, lack of infrastructure. So for them, it will be a kind of a great equalizer, because now that you are catching internet from the satellite, you're getting signals from the satellite. Doesn't matter which part of the country you are living in. Even when you are living in the most far off areas, you can still have access to the internet through this satellite kind of a system. So it's a great equalizer in one sense. But on the other hand, it also gives a lot of power into the hands of those companies that will own this infrastructure. So this infrastructure, for example, will be owned by, let's say, Starlink in this case, or Geo, Airtel, whoever is actually partnering with them. That gives a lot of power to them. They will decide the destiny of a lot of people. If they want, they can just switch off the internet. For example, take the example of Starlink in Ukraine. When the Ukraine-Russia war started, Starlink gave its services to Ukraine's people and said that you will be able to use the internet free of cost, don't worry. After a few months, Elon Musk said that no, 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 you must pay us. We can't offer you these services for free, you have to pay us. So it's a more of a blackmailing strategy that can be used in such scenarios. This is where the countries have to be very careful about these kind of strategic infrastructure. On top of that, as I said earlier, the other problem is that it requires a lot of satellites. So not only is it a big investment, it also creates a kind of a traffic jam in the space. Understand this. The space, the outer space that we talk about, it's one simple atmosphere, or it's one common atmosphere. In the entire space, if you have these satellites coming into contact with each other, they might have a lot of damage to each other, they might create collisions, and they might create a lot of space debris. In fact, debris in the space is a big problem even today. A lot of satellites whose life has ended, they're just still revolving just because they are there, and they still have a potential of colliding with some other satellites and destroying them, destroying the entire infrastructure. This is where all these countries have to come together to actually sign an agreement where this development of space infrastructure can be done together. As I said, if you compare Starlink with other countries, Starlink, for example, already has about 7,000 plus satellites in their network. OneWeb, which is a French company, has about 650 satellites. And this is where you have to understand that the more satellites you send, the more will be your coverage, the better will be your coverage of this entire broadband connectivity. The more coverage you will be able to give to other parts of the world. It's more of a first mover's advantage. The country that does it first, the country that sends the most satellite, will be able to win this race. If you compare even today, Starlink has much, much more satellites than what NASA or ISRO, etc. has sent. Because Starlink is doing this for commercial purposes, for providing these services to the people. Would it have economic accessibility? As I said, the actual rates that will be offered to people are not out. But most of the estimates suggest that even if such an internet service is offered to the common people, it will be very expensive. It will be much more expensive than the internet services that are usually offered in the shape of broadband that you have. It will give monopoly power. The Starlink operation example that I gave you, the Starlink operation in Ukraine, how they have been the monopoly in Ukraine and telling people of Ukraine, you have to now pay us in case you want us to continue this internet. There are concerns about debris management. As I said, when you have so many satellites in space, you will always have this problem of satellites colliding with each other, and then there will be a debris. There are multiple instances now of satellites colliding with other satellites or their remains and not being able to work properly after that. When you have thousands of satellites in space, see, space does not have a traffic rule kind of a thing. There is no red light where the satellite would stop and allow the others to pass away. That is a traffic management thing that we see on the ground. But in the space, how do you manage that? That is still a big challenge. And this is what we have to see in the long run. Where does India stand? What do we do? Now, ISRO and InSpace, that's a part of ISRO, are also working towards sending commercial satellites like that. We also have a SATCOM policy of 2022 that allows foreign investment. We are collaborating with other countries. Space, anyways, is one area where India has a big need. As you know, ISRO is one of the most effective and one of the most effective and efficient space agencies in the world. We offer commercial operations also. We send satellites to space of other countries as well, under which we earn foreign exchange. You know, ISRO holds a record for sending the most satellites into space at one single go. All these are achievements of ISRO. So this is one area where we can actually work hard and we can compete with other countries. Just that it requires a lot more investment from ISRO as compared to where we are right now. The other problem with the space internet thing is that it has a potential of being weaponized. It has a potential of anyone else getting control over it, using it for cyber attacks, using it for jamming your own internet connections. That is a big concern. While this kind of a technology is not bad to have, because you would have seen these situations where, let's say, there's a cyclone, as a part cyclone or tornado, the result is that all this infrastructure of telecommunication all goes down and people are not able to go online. There's no connectivity with them. So in such cases, if you have connectivity through satellite, it will be much, much more reliable. So on those case to case basis, it has a lot of potential to be used. But the reality is you cannot use this as the only alternative. It has to be one of the alternatives along with the already existing systems that we have. Then we have an article, a few articles from the prelims exam point of view specifically. For example, there's an article about this about the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Now, this is an interesting bit because it's a more of a center-state dispute. It's a very common issue over the years that when there are state governments which are ruled by the party which is not at the center, you'll always see some issue about the distribution of funds. States alleging that the center government is not giving them enough funds, center government saying that the states are not using the funds properly. It's an extension of that only. So Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, as you know, is a mission, or it's a proper scheme by the government of India specifically to improve education status across the entire country, under which a lot of money is given by the center government and the states also expected to contribute. Education in itself is a very common recurring theme in our examination. You will see a lot of questions based on education for the prelims exam point of view, from the mains exam point of view also. Right to education, government schemes on education are very recurrently asked. So it's important to know all of this from the examination. Now, the context of why this article has been written in the newspaper is that the Union Ministry of Education has announced that they have withheld the funds under this scheme for three states: Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal specifically. Now, if you just look at them closely and think about what is common in these three states, it's not a difficult question. What is common in these three states? All of them are ruled by non-BJP parties. All of them are, you can say, opposition ruled states. These kind of things usually don't happen in a state that is ruled by the same party as the center government is. So states and the center government are not seeing eye to eye with respect to how this policy will be rolled out, because of which center government has not given it funds. Although they announced that they will be allocating the funds, it's a significant amount that has been allocated, but they have not disbursed the funds, saying that the states are not doing a good job with it. Now, what exactly is Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan? The Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan is a centrally sponsored integrated scheme. Now, centrally sponsored scheme, please understand, there are two types of schemes that you would have heard about. There is central sponsored scheme and there is central sector scheme. Central sector scheme where 100% money comes from central government only. And central sponsored scheme means a scheme where, let's say, 60% for example mainly comes in from center and 40% has to come in from state. That's called central sponsored scheme. So this is a central sponsored scheme where 60% money comes in from the center government that they have stored for three states. The idea of this funds is it should be used for teacher training, salary, infrastructure improvement, special education, basically everything that is required to improve the status of education. This is where the money will be used. This is mainly from preschool to class 12. So basically the entire spectrum of school education, this is where the funds have to be used. 60-40 is a ratio as it is in any central sponsored scheme. And the idea is simple: to improve enrollment, to improve the quality of education, etc. Now the question is, if it is so important, if it is so vital, Why is it that the central government has frozen the funds or not given the funds to these three states? This is what the minister says. The minister says, or the minister has said in the parliament, that the funds under the scheme are released on the basis of pace of expenditure, means what is the pace at which the state is actually spending the money, state's share of funding, how much have they contributed, audited accounts, have they used it or not. Specifically, the case of Tamil Nadu is interesting. The central government says that Tamil Nadu government has categorically said that we will not implement the three language formula under national education policy. We have discussed the three language formula earlier in many sessions. Three language formula means the state government in the schools should ensure that the students learn three languages: English, their mother tongue, and some other language. Three languages should be taught. However, Tamil Nadu has said that we are happy with two languages only, Tamil and English, and we don't want to go with any other third language. So, first, Tamil Nadu government has not implemented the three language formula. Secondly, they have not signed the MOU on PM Shri schools. Now, what are PM Shri schools? PM Shri schools are kind of model schools that have to be built to implement national education policy. So, National Education Policy 2020 has some new ideas of how the students should be taught. To implement those ideas, specifically the central government wants PM Shri schools to be set up, which will be model schools for national education policy. Tamil Nadu government, along with many other governments, Delhi government also earlier, had said that we don't want to set up new schools altogether. Because of this, central government says we will not be giving you this money. Now, because of stopping of this money or freezing of funds, it will have these kind of consequences which are very obvious. It might lead to delay in the salaries, reimbursements of right to education. What are these reimbursements? So under right to education, the schools have to block 25% seats for for economically weaker sections, EWS. Their fees is then reimbursed by the government. Government tells the schools, we'll give their fee, you give admission to poor people. So those reimbursements can be held up, transportation disruption may happen. Basically everything that can go wrong may go wrong here because of the lack of funds. So it's a situation that should be resolved because ultimately it will harm the students and the teachers. Every stakeholder in this situation will be harmed. This is again a bigger problem of cooperative governance. It's a bigger problem of federalism where the states and the center, especially when two different parties are involved, are not being able to see eye to eye with each other. This is just one example of where the issues have been happening. In the past decade or so, we have seen multiple times confrontation between the center and the states over funds, over GST, over deputation of bureaucrats. All of these are a part of the bigger problem. And the problem is lack of cooperative federalism, lack of trust in each other, lack of trust between political parties, and this is why it has to be resolved in the long run. This also has put fiscal federalism at risk. Fiscal federalism basically means the money distribution between the center and the state. Because the state governments depend heavily on the center government. The state governments depend heavily on the fact that the central government will be helping them with the distribution in the taxes. Central government will be helping them with different government schemes. Central government will be helping them with GST compensation. This puts that apart also at risk, because if the states can't trust the center, if the states can't trust the center with giving them the money timely, how will the states be able to implement their policies in the long run? And that is why there's a bigger picture or there's a bigger problem at stake here. The next article that we have here is about something called undersea cables. Very fascinating topic. Undersea cables are big network of cables that are joining the entire world. India, for example, is connected to other parts of the world through these big undersea cables, and that is how internet usually works. How is it that you are able to connect your internet to a server that is in US? How is it that an information stored in US server or French servers can be accessed by you on your mobile phone? It is all because of these undersea cables, these huge cables that go under the sea, under the ocean. Now, what is this article about? This article is not in the context of something that has happened right now. This article is mainly about what is the importance of this and why the countries should work together to protect and preserve them. These infrastructure based questions are asked very commonly in the past. Like if you see 2017, we had this infrastructure based question in the past. Again, if you know the answer, do tell us in the comment section. What are these undersea cables? So again, these are called submarine cable also, or internet traffic cables. These are the cables that connect multiple parts of the world, all parts of the world from one country to the other, allow them to access the internet. So if someone sitting in the US wants to access information on the American server, on the server in Europe, we are able to do that because of these cables. Over 90% of the world's internet traffic goes through these cables only. So imagine how important they are. And this is also a big threat because, when the people who want to harm this infrastructure, like terrorists, etc., when they get control over it, they can actually hamper the communication of the entire world. Now, in terms of India, India has about 17 international submarine cables. Mainly, most of the cables that connect India with other parts of the world are in Mumbai and Chennai. So it is through Mumbai and Chennai that most of the world is connected to India. Now India also has some of the islands, as you know, Lakshadweep, Andaman, Nicobar. To connect them, Chennai connects with other countries from Southeast Asia, and then again India has other connections with Europe as well through Mumbai. Apart from that, locally, that is within the country, we have Chennai Andaman cable to ensure that there is internet connectivity to Andaman Nicobar Islands as well, and then we have Kochi Lakshadweep Island cables as well. All these are heavy cables put underwater, undersea, to ensure connectivity to all parts of the country. Do remember this, that most of the international cables in India join India from Mumbai and Chennai, and then within India to Andaman, Nicobar and Lakshadweep, we have Chennai to Andaman, Nicobar, and we have Lakshadweep to Kochi. This is how all these places get internet connectivity in India through the cables with the help of this connection. Now, these are extremely important because everything that you do on the internet today is possible because of these cables. And almost every part of your life is affected by internet. Be it e-commerce, banking transactions, social media. You are seeing me right now because of internet. Imagine if internet cable would not have been available. Even if I am in India, you might not be able to see me because you are seeing me through a website, YouTube. Now, YouTube has servers somewhere else. So when you are accessing internet, it is the YouTube servers that are sending you this information. So your information might be going to different parts of the world before it is reaching you. So that is why it is extremely, extremely complex. And if India wants to go ahead on its Digital India mission, 5G rollout, etc., we have to ensure that the underwater cables are well kept and safeguarded. Now, in India, it's not that easy to draw such kind of cables. India is well known to have bureaucratic hurdles, what we call as red tape. Close to 51 permissions are required. 51 permissions just to have these cables laid down. Permission required from Department of Telecommunication, Department of Home, Ministry of Home Affairs, Environment, local bodies. All of these actually have to say yes before such cables are laid out. Not just this, see, these are at the end of the day cables only. So any of them can go bad, any of them can be cut, any of them can be disrupted. For that, we do not have any dedicated cable repair ships. So there are specific cable repair ships right now that many countries have in the world. Like America has many of them, China has many of them, whose responsibility is that if an undersea cable nearby their coast has gone bad, has cut, has damaged, they will basically look into it and they will try and make sure that these cables are repaired, and that is done with the help of specific ships. India specifically right now depends on foreign vessels to do this work. Now just imagine, this is such an important infrastructure for us, and we are dependent on a foreign country to send their ships in order to help us repair that. That's not an ideal situation. If there are certain disruptions here, it might cost us very badly. For example, recently in the Red Sea, the Houthi rebels of Yemen did try to harm an undersea cable, and that impacted India as well. There are big fishing trawlers as well. Trawler means those big fish, those big boats, etc., that can reach till the bed of the sea. So they can also impact, and they can also have accidental breakage. That is why there's not one single cable. It's not that it's only one cable, and if that is cut, India will be out of the internet for the entire world. That is not how it works. There are multiple cables for duplication. But then when someone is intentionally trying to harm you, they might look at harming all these cables, and that can be a destructive thing in the long run. What can we do? First, make it easier for India, within India, to lay down these cables, have better regulatory mechanism, have a single window clearance situation. Also, diversify landing points, means the points where most of the international cables meet India, it's actually very, very, very concentrated. So it's mainly in, as I said, Mumbai and Chennai only, that most of the international cables actually meet India. We can diversify that, maybe have some cables meeting other parts, other coastal areas as well. That can also be a good and a safer option to introspect. Otherwise, you'll always be dependent on some of the few countries or some of the few places here. Also, invest into our own cable operations, repair our own cables, have our own ships, so that we are not dependent on others. Take help from private sector as well. Public-private partnerships in these cases can go a long way in resolving these kind of problems. Apart from that, India can also look into our own national digital communication policy and a cyber security strategy, under which we should treat our undersea cables as a part of critical infrastructure, so that they are given the highest level of protection. And if something wrong happens with them, we should be ready with a plan in place in order to correct that mistake. It's a very, very important part of India's future. It's an important part of our present also, and we cannot let this go in the hands of someone who wants to harm us for the long run. Apart from that, there are countries around the world that can also misuse it, and it has become a part of cyber warfare now. Undersea cables have become tools in cyber warfare. China, US, many other countries are actually exploiting that. And especially areas which are controlled by the rebels, which are controlled by those groups that are harming sovereignty of other countries. For them, it's a very easy way to choke any country, like what is being done by the Houthi rebels, especially in the pirates in Somalia. All these people do have their eyes on this critical infrastructure, especially in important areas of the world like the Red Sea, the Strait of Malacca. This is where we cannot take a chance, and we have to be very, very careful about how our infrastructure is kept. There are other interesting projects as well. There countries are connecting with each other through multiple cables. There's something called SEAMEWE6. So this is Southeast Asia, Middle East, Western Europe. The Southeast Asia, Middle East, Western Europe. This is a big cable connecting Europe to Singapore. There are many other cables put by Meta also to connect Africa in multiple parts of the world. India also can invest more in this and can collaborate with private players as well to bring in their expertise and be able to connect India with other parts of the world as well. Also, it's a part of our digital sovereignty. If we really want our data to be protected, if we really want our resources to be in our hand and not someone else's hand, we have to look into this, and we have to make sure that all these cables and their repairs are in our hands and not in the hands of anyone else in the long run. The last article for today that we have is about the International Criminal Court. The news is that Hungary has announced that they will be officially stepping down or stepping out of the International Criminal Court. Now, it comes in as a response to the recent visit. Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of Israel, will be in Hungary. Against Benjamin Netanyahu, the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant. Now, when International Criminal Court issues an arrest warrant, the member countries have a responsibility to arrest that person. Because International Criminal Court doesn't have a police of itself, it depends on the member countries. That when the member countries basically are obliged by that, they will arrest the person. They will fulfill the arrest warrant. But Hungary says that we are not interested in arresting the person, arresting Benjamin Netanyahu. Rather, when Benjamin Netanyahu is here, we will be saying that we are opting out of International Criminal Court. International Criminal Court is a very unique kind of a concept. I'm sure all of you would have heard about International Court of Justice. Please don't get confused. The International Court of Justice, that is ICJ, it's a different body altogether. That's a UN organ. International Criminal Court is not a UN organ. It's a very recent organ. International Criminal Court is mainly to punish individuals, specifically in issues of genocide, in issues of mass killing. So leaders around the world that give orders to kill thousands and lakhs of people, they are never punished. So specifically to punish them, International Criminal Court has come. It doesn't give orders against the countries, it gives orders against individuals. So basically, the highlight of this article is ICC has issued an arrest warrant against Benjamin Netanyahu. Hungary, being a part of it, should be arresting him, but on the contrary, Hungary is actually welcoming Benjamin Netanyahu. Hungary's leader, Viktor Orban, says that we don't believe in ICC, we think the ICC is biased, and that is why we will be coming out of it. Hungary has been a long-term supporter of Benjamin Netanyahu. They have been long-term supporter of Israel. So them taking this kind of a decision is not a surprise for anyone really. The International Criminal Court, as I said, it's formed on the basis of the Rome Statute 1998. Please understand, the Rome Statute was in 1998, but International Criminal Court that came in 2002. So the court's formation was mainly in 2002, but the Rome Statute under which it is formed, that was in 1998. It is mainly for individuals. It doesn't give decisions against the countries. India is not a member. In fact, many big countries are not members here. They think that it is biased. We also think it's biased. And see, India anyways does not take part in these kind of organizations, which we think is against our sovereignty. Not just India, US, Russia, China, India, these are not members of ICC because we think that they are biased against these organizations, biased against these countries such as African countries. Also, ICC does not have any enforcement power. They don't have a police of their own. Like if you look at the International Court of Justice, the UN organ, when they give a decision, the UN Security Council has a responsibility to implement that decision. For International Criminal Court, when they give a decision, there is no implementing authority that they have. The expectation is that the member countries that are members already will be the ones who will implement it. But very, very, very rarely would you ever see someone being actually arrested in an international criminal court warrant. That usually does not happen. It's also a indication that these kind of organizations are growing weaker and weaker every single day. It's not even a UN organ, so it's even weaker as compared to other UN organs, and that is where it's a big concern that what is the future of these organizations if they can't even have one arrest warrant being implemented. Where does India stand? India, as I said, supports the accountability. We think that people should be held accountable for their action, but we don't think ICC does it in a great way. So as a result, we do not really want ICC, or we are not a part of ICC. We do not think that ICC, International Criminal Court, is the best way forward. We anyways are not a part of it. We do not believe that ICC would have the power to actually safeguard people, or would have the power to actually put people accountable for what they have done. This is the present situation where India is right now. It's a comparative table between two similar sounding organizations which are not the same. As I've been saying, International Court of Justice is a UN organ. This is not a UN organ, the International Criminal Court, it's in 2002. Individuals are the people, individuals, parties are the ones who are basically under the jurisdiction of ICC. ICC does not give decision against a country, it gives decision against a person. So they have issued arrest warrant, for example, against Vladimir Putin as well. On the other hand, ICJ has member states, that is the UN members. They often resolve disputes against the UN members. And that is how these two are different. It's a comparative table between the two that you should know, because UPSC usually may ask questions comparing the two with each other. These are the 5 articles that we had for you for today's discussion. Now very quickly, a mains practice question, what kind of a question can be asked from here and what can be the answer to this? A mains practice question can be, the recent imposition of tariffs by the US marks a turning point in the global trading order. Critically examine its implications for India's economy and foreign policy. So you are specifically being asked, what will be the implication of US or tariffs on India? Not on other parts of the world, but specifically on India. So again, as I told you earlier also, introduction should be either a fact or an intro. You can start with a fact, explaining what these tariffs are, explaining the background situation of what Donald Trump has done. You can tell about a fact that under what law has he imposed these tariffs. We discussed today as well. The law is International Emergency Economic Powers Act. It is under this act that Donald Trump has imposed the tariffs. Now the question is about the turning point in the global trading order and impact on India. So we'll first focus on what impact would it have globally. How is it going away from multilateralism? How is it weaponizing trade deficit? How is it going against the idea of WTO? It is eroding all the goodwill that WTO had built over the years. And then you can come to the impact it would have on India. Today specifically we discuss about different sectors of India, how will it impact them. So you can divide the sector by sector also, like seafood sector, engineering sector, pharma sector, supply chain disruptions. There are many ways to answer this, but this is how you can basically structure it, of how it will impact India sector by sector, job losses, etc. in the long run. Again, depending upon what the word limit is. If the word limit is 250, we can write all these points. If it's a 200 word answer, you can deduct some points as well, depending upon how you want to wrap it up. And you can conclude this by telling how the way forward is and how the countries can work together to diplomatically resolve this issue in the long run. Now, there were some questions given to you yesterday. There were 3 questions. I hope all of you solved them. Let's discuss those and then I'll have some homework for you. First question of yesterday's prelims was, with reference to three-language formula in India, consider the following. Number one, three-language formula was first introduced in 1986 National Education Policy. No, it was in the first National Education Policy. It was in 1968. 86 was the second one. Tamil Nadu follows the three-language formula. No, we discussed Tamil Nadu follows the two-language formula. As per 2009 All India School Education Service, Sanskrit was often used as third language in Hindi belt states. Yes. Those of you who are from Hindi speaking states may have learned Sanskrit in school up till class 5. So the answer here would be B. That was the first question of yesterday. Second question of yesterday was, with reference to geographical indication text in India, that is GI tag, consider the following. 1. Uttar Pradesh holds the highest number of GI tags amongst all Indian states. That is correct. UP has the highest number of GI tags. India has registered over 600 GI tags. Yes, that is also great. We discussed this yesterday. GI tags are issued by Department of Promotion for Industrial Internal Trade under Patent Act. No, there is a specific GI Act in India under which the tags are issued, not the Patent Act. And fourth, the record number of GI tags were issued in single day in 2024 with Tamil Nadu receiving the highest number. No, UP. Uttar Pradesh has received the highest number, not Tamil Nadu. So again, 1 and 2 are correct. A would be the answer. 3 and 4 here are wrong. Which of the following can be found as a pollutant in drinking water in some parts of India? Arsenic, yes, it's a big industrial waste. It can be found as a pollutant. Sorbitol, not really. You see this in some of the food products, not a water pollutant. Fluoride, yes, it has been found in many of the water component, water bodies. Formaldehyde, no. Uranium is an interesting one. Many people would think no, but actually some studies have suggested in multiple parts of the country, you have seen even uranium as a contaminant in water. So 1, 3 and 5. C is correct answer here. Interesting question. C is the answer here. Now I have a few practice questions for you that I want all of you to attempt. Tell me the answer in the comment section. If you want to attempt the quiz, there's a link in the description of the video. Click on that link. You will go to our website. You can attempt the test there as well. And tell us in the comment section what was your score. There's a question here on internet satellite constellations. Then you have a question here on the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. You can pause and then you can read the question properly if you want to. Third question that I have here is the undersea internet cables. Again, a very important part of what we discussed. And one more question that I have is about the International Criminal Court. I hope all of you attempt the quiz. This brings me to the end of this session. I hope you learned something new today. If you are new here, do hit the subscribe button and do attend the quiz. We will see you in the next one tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thank you. Bye-bye.